Alrighty, good afternoon, YouTube. Sorry that apparently the picture something's wrong with my disc. I might have to get a new one eventually, but I'm gonna try to get through this review as quickly and informative as possible. The movie that I'm trying to review is Blade Trinity, and it stars Wesley Snipes, Ryan Reynolds, Jessica Biel, Patman Oswald. Uh, I can't remember his name. I might be mispronouncing it. Kristofferson and Piper Posey, Triple H, and I can't remember the other brother from what's that movie? Not movie, TV show, Prison Break. The one I think that plays Lincoln. I think his name is Dominic something, but pretty much this is the original the last movie in the Blade Trinity. I think the TV show that came out as well right after this movie with Sticky Fingers, I want to say it's connected, but pretty much it's the the last movie they officially made. They were talking about doing a Nightstalkers movie with Ron Reynolds and Jessica Biel's characters, but I guess that fell through. So pretty much in this story, Blade is more known to the humans and the media, and of course the FBI. Oh yeah, also James Renner's in this movie playing the FBI agent, and he's seen more of a criminal versus their vampires actually existing in their world. Um, Pretty much, he's being hunted by the humans as well as the vampires. The vampires are using the humans as pawns to move around. Ever since the first movie, they call them familiars. They do their dirty work during the day. Um, and the interesting thing about this, it kind of reminds me a little bit of X-Men Apocalypse because they summon the original vampire who's technically Dracula. And, of course, myth and legend say one thing, but in this hit universe, history says another. And I liked how they tackled, the mythology. It is despite what you might feel about this movie. Well, the mythology of Dracula, because it made him very, very ancient, where he existed around at the time of Christ. And even if you look at the vampire lore, they originally said they lived, they existed just as long as humans did. And there was also a gap theory saying that the angels were indirectly responsible for creating them. But that's a whole separate topic. So in the movie, they summon him to pretty much kill Blade and as well as take over the rest of the planet, as you do, because that dude's the original, vampire, pretty much god. Pretty much if you've seen the first Blade movie where they were trying to summon Lamagra, the blood god, Dagon, also known as Dracula in this, he's the physical manifestation. And what I liked about this movie, they incorporate, elements as well as new elements from both films into this. Mainly, what I just said, Lamagra was from the first movie. And if you've seen the second film with the Reavers, how they had that split down their mouth, you see where the origins of that had came from with Dagon, even though they said that in that movie, the those vampires were pretty much created. Um, but I think the original, origin of not really mutation, but that trait had existed even with them tampering with DNA. Best way to describe it is Jurassic Park with with vampires, not really cloning, but messing with the DNA, putting certain links in there, which is also is a very interesting concept. But this movie was very interesting. I thought they were gonna make more right after this one, especially how funny Ryan Reynolds was. He indirectly, well, I wouldn't say he stole the show, but he was complimentary to Wesley Snipes despite of what happened behind the scenes, which I'm gonna get into. But pretty much, I wish, of course, it's been announced that Mahershala Ali is gonna now play Blade in the MCU, which is a good thing because really believe Wesley, out of all the stuff he did on this movie and with his legal trouble, I think he would have got booted out, replaced right after the first film if he made it to the first film. But the good thing is that, dude really isn't that butthurt that Mahershala Ali's getting the role, because apparently I want to say that both him and Wesley are Muslim, and they had, that bond already, even though I'm just speculating. I know Mahershala is Muslim, but I'm not sure about Wesley. But I'm just, I'm happy that he's not that salty about it. Plus, he's doing other things. So, he put Blade in the past. But I'm technically, without the first film, majority of those Marvel movies you see today would not existed. And even with the action, even the Matrix had borrowed that bullet time effect and just perfected it in their movie as well. And when you think of core, and I think VH1 had did it, when you look at all of the years in cinema, you always have like one or two films that really do stand out of how they change something, and it's usually for the greater good. And like I said, personally, I didn't know Blade was a Marvel property until I watched Spider-Man, the animated series. And it was funny because of course, I watched it when I was a kid, but I didn't see the episode with Blade on it. I think I saw the one with Morbius, and it was a four-parter, and I just didn't see the other episodes. But it wasn't until I got older and they had marathons, I think, on ABC Family, and I saw the Morbius arc, and it was Punisher, Daredevil, and Blade, I believe. They were like all in that timeline scathed. And when I was shocked when I saw Blade, and I was like, oh, okay, he's a Marvel property. And then right after I acknowledged that, all of a sudden I started seeing him everywhere, in Marvel comics. And it was very interesting how he was created. I think it was like Tomb of the Dracula, one of their horror stories, and there was some differences of how he was originally created, and it wasn't until that movie came out that it was more stable. How iconic really who his character is. Originally he was human. He wasn't a half human, half vampire breed, and I think it was an easy way to cope out his superhuman abilities. So that's probably why they added it in the movie. And I'm glad how they pretty much didn't put heavy Marvel comics and emphasis on it. It did exist in its own universe because they sold off a lot of their properties. And I even heard at one point, technically Wesley had did this because he couldn't do Black Panther back in the 90s when he tried it. So Marvel wasn't going to license out that character, but if he saw Blade, another black action superhero, and let's have it. And I'm kind of glad that he did it. It really introduced a lot of interesting things in vampire mythology. It's not like Anne Rice or John Carpenter. One thing I do want to say that I wish they did at this point now was cross it over with Underworld. I remember Watch Mojo had did a video of the top like 10 movies we want to see in a crossover, and Blade and Underworld, they really do fit together, especially at the end of this. I think it was a deleted scene actually where it revealed that werewolves existed in their universe as well. They just thought it was vampires, and it was a little bit comical, but it was interesting. And I would love to see if the Nightstalkers would have went there. Another interesting concept or thing about this movie, they were originally going to do it in the future. I think where Blade was a little bit older and the vampires had like overtook more of the population, so that would be interesting as well. Another good pros about this movie were the weapons. They had some very interesting weapons, some useful stuff that I wish they had now. Seeing the first film would have came, very, very handy. But now, let's talk more about, behind the scenes. Because if you see the DVD or, just the movie itself, of course, they didn't talk about it that much, but Lee Patton Oswalt, that plays one of the the minor characters, pretty much he makes all their weapons. He had revealed that Wesley was a little bit of a dick behind the scenes. he attacked the director at a few points, like physically. He attacked the what's his name, David S. Goyer. He wrote all three of the films, and it's the first time he directed. But I guess they had, I don't know how the confrontation really happened. If you can look it up on here, Lee Patton Oswald, and he'll talk about the Blade experience, and even knowing it now and looking at the features, it was funny because he even said that he wouldn't show up to set for certain days, and David S. Goyer indirectly mentioned it when he said that Wesley wasn't available, so they had to cut a scene with that he wasn't even in, like physically, and it made it look like he was in it. It was like a major dialogue scene, and between the whole behind the scenes scuffle, I don't know who to believe. Wesley was saying it was some racial tension going on. You know, where something had happened, he told David S. Goyer, and David S. Goyer didn't do anything about it. But I highly really believe that because, well, number one, you're a hardcore, martial artist. I think you can threaten one person without even, putting up your fist if that was really the case, that it was some dude doing some racist shit behind the scenes. And of course, you're Wesley Snipes, so you're a known celebrity. He could have, yeah, if it was really true, you would have, ousted him, when it happened. But I don't know the whole details about it. The one thing I didn't really like is that Whistler's character in the film itself had died, very early on, because I really wanted to see him in the rest of the movie. He was really like the Obi-Wan uncle in this film, in the first and second one, which to me seemed obsolete because apparently he died in the first one and he came back in the second one and he stayed for the whole movie. And then in the third movie now, he died again technically. But now I think about it, I'm very curious to know who they are gonna cast to play Whistler. It'd be very interesting. I can't really think of an actor who would do it. But that's pretty much all I have to say because I am still kind of pissed that the disc won't work. That's why you're looking at a black screen. But if you want to talk, ask me any questions in the comments. I'll definitely, reply. And I will talk to you later. Peace.